Picture yourself in Athens, over 2,500 years ago. The city is restless. Ordinary citizens feel ignored, while powerful families control decisions. Tensions are boiling, almost like when a few voices today dominate the conversation and the majority feel shut out. Then enters Cleisthenes, a statesman who dares to ask, what if power belonged not to the few, but to the many? This question would spark one of the most radical experiments in history, the birth of democracy. Cleisthenes was an Athenian reformer around 508 BCE. Athens had just gone through political upheaval, and people were frustrated with the aristocrats, those elite families who held the reins of power. Instead of simply replacing one elite with another, Cleisthenes tried something bold. He redesigned the political system to give ordinary citizens a voice. Before Cleisthenes, politics was dominated by family ties and clans. If you were born into the right circle, you had influence. If not, you were voiceless. Cleisthenes reorganized the population into new political units called demes. These weren't based on family or wealth, but on geography. In other words, where you lived mattered more than who your parents were. This shift broke the monopoly of powerful families and gave space for broader participation. Think of it as redesigning a classroom group project. Instead of letting the same few loud voices control the work, you shuffle the teams so that everyone gets a chance to contribute. Cleisthenes expanded the role of the ecclesia, or assembly, where ordinary male citizens could debate, propose, and vote on laws. Decisions weren't just handed down by elites, they were openly discussed. For the first time, the idea that government could be a shared responsibility took root. It wasn't perfect. Women, slaves, and foreigners were excluded. But compared to the norms of the time, it was revolutionary. Now, why should we care about a reformer from ancient Athens? Because Cleisthenes planted the seed of a principle that still shapes governance today: the belief that power should not be concentrated in the hands of the few, but shared among the many. Democracy has evolved far beyond Athens. Today, it includes rights for all genders, protections for minorities, and rule of law. But the core challenge remains the same. How do we ensure that everyone's voice counts, not just the powerful or wealthy? Some historians argue that Cleisthenes wasn't a pure democrat, that he used these reforms as a clever way to gain power for himself. Others see him as a genuine visionary. The truth may lie in between, but whether his motives were personal or idealistic, the impact was undeniable. He set Athens on a democratic path that would influence centuries of political thought. So what can we learn from Cleisthenes and the birth of democracy? That governance is not static. It can be reshaped, sometimes radically, when citizens demand fairness and when leaders are bold enough to reimagine power. Here's something to reflect on. Democracy is not just a system written on paper. It's a living practice that depends on participation, fairness, and courage.
Here's one small action you can take this week. In your classroom, workplace, or community, notice whose voices are being left out and make space for them. It could be as simple as inviting a quieter colleague to share their idea in a meeting. Small acts of inclusion echo the same spirit that Cleisthenes championed, giving voice to the many, not just the few. Because the birth of democracy isn't just history, it's a reminder that fairness and participation are choices we make every day.
Thank you for watching. If this video made you think, Share it with someone who cares about building a better society. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned, because every informed citizen helps build the ideal nation.